Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool have just beaten Swansea City at Anfield by 5-0 on Boxing Day to keep themselves sitting pretty in 4th place in the Premier League in those all-important Champions League places. And it was a lovely, lovely win in the end because Liverpool managed to win by 5 goals, keep a clean sheet, look reasonably comfortable without ever really having to go into second gear. And if I did have one criticism of the game, it would be that I think our game management at 1-0 was ever so slightly off because we went 1-0 up very early on, and while that is obviously a very good thing, I think it had a strange effect on the game in that suddenly everyone was expecting Liverpool to just go for the jugular against Swansea and score goal after goal after goal, whereas I think Swansea were always planning to sit back at Anfield, and it was always expected that there would be a slow start to the game and it would take Liverpool a while before the chances really started to fall for them. And if it wasn't for that Coutinho goal early on, then I think we would have been fine with the first half going the way it did. But we scored early on and suddenly everyone's expecting the rout, and it just doesn't quite happen because with the kind of way Liverpool are playing at the moment, you know, teams always sit back against us at Anfield, and with the amount of fixtures we have to play, we can't always go for the jugular like we did against Spartak Moscow and absolutely steamroll every side that comes our way. We do have to calm down a little bit. We do have to sit off. We do have to play within ourselves a bit and wait until later on in the game before we can start to actually pile the goals up. And I think we went about it slightly the wrong way in that we did it maybe 10 or 15 yards a little bit too far back on the pitch, in that when we were just trying to pass the ball around, keep things calm, keep it under control, not let Swansea into the game too much and just keep ourselves rested, we were doing it quite far back, and it meant that we were almost inviting Swansea pressure on. You know, Matip, Klopp and Alexander-Arnold and Robertson were all passing the ball around with each other. It just meant that Swansea were coming at us a little bit more than I would have liked, and I just think, you know, what we really needed was to get the ball to the midfielders, to like Emre Can, Gini Wijnaldum and Oxlade Chamberlain as well, and get them to do this passing, because, you know, if you control the midfield, if you control the centre of the park, you basically control the game and dictate what actually happens to a pretty impressive extent. But the problem was, whenever we did get the ball to them, that they kind of treated that as the signal that it was time to attack, it was time to go for Swansea and try and get the second goal. So I had a few problems with our game management early on, and if I am honest, then I think a team better than Swansea would have probably taken advantage of that and probably would have got a goal in that first half. You know, Swansea did have a few opportunities, but thankfully for Liverpool, they're just not very good. They're just a bit rubbish, to be honest, and they just did not have the quality. So whenever they did have opportunities, get on the ball, get chances falling to them, they thankfully couldn't put them away, and Liverpool managed to go in at half-time 1-0 up. So the goals individually, of course, Phil Coutinho, like I said, put us 1-0 up within about 5 minutes, and it was a really, really nice goal, honestly. Another one from outside the box for Phil Coutinho. He's like well ahead of anyone else in the Premier League. I think Eriksen is second. It's something like 19 goals now since he arrived at Liverpool from outside the penalty area, which is a lovely, lovely stat and will come as a surprise to absolutely nobody because we know he's lethal from that kind of range. And it was a nice goal as well because it was that kind of Phil Coutinho special, you know, right foot curling it into the top far corner, but it came without the run-up this time. It came without the cut inside, and that's what was most impressive about it, was because he did it inside a very small space without any time to really run up to the ball and get a lot of power behind it. It was almost like actually dinking it into the top corner rather than smashing it with a nice bit of curl. So that was a really lovely goal from Phil Coutinho. You know, the guy had a great game today. Swansea just couldn't really handle him, and, you know, Liverpool's entire front three are kind of starting to play like that now, you know. Salah was pretty much unplayable. Swansea just had to either foul him or let him go past them. They could barely ever get near the ball when he was on it. The exact same for Phil Coutinho as well. And Roberto Firmino is not bad on the ball either. So that is a fantastic and wonderful sign. Speaking of Roberto Firmino, once Liverpool got into the second half, Swansea were starting to tire. They were getting a bit leggy, and that really showed because Liverpool straight away got their second goal around about the 52nd minute or something like that. Lovely finish from Bobby Firmino. Great ball from Phil Coutinho as well, building on his fantastic first half. You know, it just dropped so well for Roberto Firmino in that the defender had absolutely no chance getting anywhere near it, and yet it suddenly dropped at just the right time, in just the right place, so that it fell for Roberto Firmino, and he just plants a nice volley past Lucas Fabianski. Great goal. Great to see Roberto Firmino getting into those positions and scoring those kind of goals. You know, that's the kind of thing that we've seen more of from Mo Salah this season. If anything, he's been the more number 9 kind of poacher that Liverpool have had, and Roberto Firmino has been a sort of scorer of slightly more spectacular and less regular goals. So it's nice to see Roberto Firmino doing that, you know, becoming the number 9 that Liverpool really need. And all in all, he had a fantastic performance elsewhere on the pitch. You know, he did everything that Roberto Firmino always does so incredibly well. Third goal, Alexander-Arnold, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely made up for the lad. You know, the ball just breaks for him in the box. Another sign that Swansea really just weren't bothered by this point in the game, to be honest. You know, it's a little bit of a rebound. The ball comes down. None of the Swansea players seem at all interested in clearing it. So Alexander-Arnold comes in. He's like, all right, I'll have that then. Smashes it in with the outside of his boot. Keeps it really well in that, you know, he doesn't quite smash it in the sense that he just puts all of the power behind it. He just gets enough power that it just rattles in off the underside of the bar. It's a lovely finish. Fantastic celebration as well from Alexander-Arnold. And the kid is turning into a real prospect at Liverpool. And if I'm honest, I'd actually quite like to see a bit of Alexander-Arnold in midfield, you know. Maybe not at the moment because he's kind of understudy to Joe Gomez at right back at the moment, and we kind of need him to be that because Joe Gomez can't play every game and Nathaniel Klein is still injured. But later on in the season and over the next few years, I would quite like to see him in the centre of the park because I'm still pretty sure that's where he actually started his career at Liverpool. That was where he played growing up and playing in the academy and everything like that. And I think, you know, the way he plays the ball, the way he gets into the box and tries to get those goals, tries to set people up, he's a fantastic crosser as well. I just think he'd really benefit from maybe having the defensive responsibilities taken off him ever so slightly and allowing him to express himself going forward. Because, you know, while he is very good playing that right back slot and he can still do the defensive side of it reasonably well, his main strengths are still going forward. That is what Alexander-Arnold is all about, and that is what I'd like to see more of in the coming months and years for as long as he stays at this club, which is hopefully for the rest of his career, because he does look like a brilliant prospect. And then the fourth goal, nice and unselfish from Mo Salah. You know, he could have quite easily shot there, but Firmino is in the better position. Mo Salah picks him out really well. You know, the ball is weighted absolutely fine, it's placed absolutely fine, and then Roberto Firmino with another very cheeky no-look finish, which we all love to see. And once again, Firmino, you know, getting into the right positions at the right time to score goals, bring his tally to something like, is it 16 this season, I think, and something like 10 in the Premier League. You know, I'm making these up off the top of my head. I think it's 16 in all competitions. It will be something around about 9 or 10 in the Premier League. But still, whatever way you look at it, it's a very good stat, and he's already surpassed his goal tally for the entirety of the previous season, and we've only just got past Christmas. So he's having a really good season, Roberto Firmino, and I'm absolutely chuffed with him because of that. And then the final goal, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, you know, it's a really smart goal, under pressure in the box. I mean, I say under pressure, like I said, Swansea weren't really that bothered by that point in the game, but they were surrounding him, and yet still he manages to just knee it carefully, cushion the ball a little bit, and then goes for a chip from there. Because why not? When you're 4-0 up and you're presented with a chance like that, why not try and just take the piss a little bit? And that is exactly what Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain did. It was a lovely little deft finish from him. Great for him to get his first goal at Anfield as well, like Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he is really maturing into the kind of player that Jurgen Klopp needs at Liverpool, and is starting to look like actually a pretty good signing. You know, it's possible that he may never be worth the 40 million that we paid for him, but to be honest, you know, transfer fees don't always reflect the quality of a player. Sometimes it's, you know, the circumstances they're in. To prize a player like that off of Arsenal, especially when he's English, is going to cost you a little bit more than maybe what he's actually worth. And personally, I think Liverpool made a good move going for Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's coming on really well. He's come on a lot quicker than I thought he was going to. I was reckoning that he might hit this kind of form in around about the second half of the season, January, maybe even February time. So for me personally, I think he's actually ahead of schedule. He's done really well under Jurgen Klopp, and he does look like a hot prospect going into the second half of the season, and always a great player to have in and around the squad. So my man of the match for today is Roberto Firmino, for kind of the same reasons that I picked him as the man of the match against Bournemouth, in that it was just a really good classic Firmino performance, you know, doing all the kind of things that you expect from the guy, harrying players, winning the ball, bringing his fellow players into play, creating space with the kind of runs that draw defenders and everything, and once again adding goals and end product to his game, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And if he keeps that up, then he could be a seriously good player for Liverpool, and if you ask me, he's probably the most important. You know, Liverpool Mo Salah's great, Coutinho's great, Mane's great, but we just aren't the same team without Roberto Firmino, and that once again showed today. And if it wasn't for the fact that he'd been subbed off a little bit later on in the game, he might have just got the hat-trick that he really, really deserves. So great performance from Firmino and my man of the match. So all in all, yeah, a really good win. Nice to see that we never really had to overdo it at any point. We never had to overexert ourselves against Swansea. It was nice and calm throughout, and hopefully that should mean that the players are going to be nice and fit for the game against Leicester. I mean, we're all expecting rotation, but a lot of the players that play today, especially the attackers, I think will end up playing again in the game against Leicester. So hopefully we can produce a similar performance like that, preferably without the slightly shaky spot later on in the first half, because like I said, a better team than Swansea will have punished Liverpool for that kind of, you know, wary game management that we had early on in that first half, and thankfully Swansea didn't, but Leicester might, so we've got to watch out for that. But hopefully we can produce a similar performance against them, keep bringing on the wins, keep ourselves in the top 4 and carry on what is a very, very good run for Liverpool at the moment. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, why not give it a like? If you're new around here as well, hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll see you shortly for the pre-match video for the game against Leicester at Anfield on the 30th of January. December. Bye for now.